Hi everyone, welcome to Dave's Bonsai. On today's episode, I dedicate this show to Tony. I wasn't sure if I'd get through a video working on trees if I talked about Tony first. So I worked on the trees and then I said a few things about Tony. That's coming up later in the show. But first, let's go back to today's topic, and that is air layering updates. We air layered a Japanese maple earlier this year, and I air layered my hibiscus tree. And this show, dedicated to Tony, is all about the attempt to get some rebirth, some new life into our trees. I hope you enjoy. My first update for the air layers is going to be the Japanese maple. So about 8 weeks ago, I went ahead and air layered this Japanese maple. We have this long, leggy, not really attractive tree. The selling part of this tree has always been the nibari. So remember, when you're at a nursery and you're looking at all kinds of potential bonsai, you're spending your money on the nibari, not the top part. But why let a good tree go to waste? We get a couple extra trees on here, we air layered, and we got possibly 3 trees from the one original, right? So I peeked at this air layer about 4 to 6 weeks in, and there was some callousing but no roots. I'm a little worried about that one, that it perhaps didn't take. But on this one, just a couple of weeks ago, I flipped it to the backside, and look at all those white roots growing in this bag. So we're going to cut this side off for sure today and get that in a pot. Now I have my pot prepared with some thicker, coarser bonsai soil on top. And I've got my soil over here. I'm going to use some of my recycled bonsai soil that's less than a year old in trees from just some sources from my trees that perhaps didn't make it, or I made some changes in design or put them in a different pot. I have a lot of leftover, slightly used bonsai soil. So we're going to go ahead and first we're going to cut this off. Actually, we're going to take the wire off first. Let's be safe. Now, I always want to be super careful when I'm taking this off, because we don't want to damage what new roots are there. Because these roots, though we can see them, they're very, very dainty little roots. We don't want to wreck them. We don't want to cause any harm to the root structure. So we're going to be super careful as we untie these wires, which holds the bag on, and the sphagnum moss. Did the top, did the middle, now we're taking care of the bottom one. Top and bottom was not touching any roots or near the roots. It was the middle one that was pretty close. And now we should be able to get rid of this bag and see what we have. And there are the main roots right there off of this bottom side. I had talked about, go check out this original episode. There's the roots. When you do an air layer, if this pot was sitting like this the whole time, the water would be equally dispersed on both sides of the tree all the way around. You'll hopefully get that 360 pattern. Because this leaned this way, all the moisture was down on this side. I have all these roots coming off over here. I have no idea what's on the top because nothing has gone through this sphagnum moss. Now the sphagnum moss is starting to come off a little bit, so I want to see if there are in fact any roots up top, and there really are not. We have some, we have some roots coming from the front towards the back, but not a ton. So I'm gently peeling back some of the sphagnum moss to see if I can see any more exposed roots. We're going to stop right there. We're going to put all of that into the new pot. I have my ratchet pruners now from Tom, Grow and Clip Bonsai for Seniors. And we're going to go ahead and cut this off right down here. So there we see all kinds of roots on this side, but again, nothing really on this side. There's a couple of straggler roots coming in here. Some of it's hard to tell if it's sphagnum moss or roots. We can go up here further. So about 50% growth, nothing on the backside. We hope that'll change when we get into this bonsai pot and we start growing this in some bonsai soil and get more roots to form. I don't have any roots per se enough wrapped around and strong enough to tie this tree in like we normally would with some wire. But I also will use a lot of rocks in my plantings to make sure that things stay sturdy. So we're going to go ahead and get some soil, and we're just going to put this right here and protect these roots. I think I might bury the roots this way. We'll go this way. What we've got here is a twin trunk, future Japanese maple twin trunk. Got a really good rock right here that lets it lean right into the rock. Right there. Now that'll hold it that way. And that'll hold it that way. A little more bonsai soil around these rocks to keep everything nice and sturdy. Now this is going to go into my cold frame, possibly the PSGF, in a few months. Let's go 2 months, by November. Usually I get my trees in there about November 1st. Hopefully the PSGF will be at a place where I can go ahead and do that. So we got that one in there, roots facing down a little bit. We'll promote hopefully some more new growth on this thing over the course of the next couple of months here. We get a little bit more root growth before we go into our winter season. So I'm going to get some water for this, and then we'll try to cut off some of the stuff we don't think we're going to need. Got some pond water here. And we're going to get this thing good and wet. So the tree had 2 branches going this way, and then they're jetting out this way. We got some scars that are starting to heal pretty nicely. We've got some early movement on branches in here. Right here we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 branches. We certainly don't need all of that. So we've cut down to 2. From 1 to 2, 1 to 2, 1 to 2, 1 to 2. Fairly short internodes here. This might be some dieback. We'll leave this all alone for see what comes back next year. We would get new buds here at the internode for next spring. We're going to go ahead and just cut that off there and there. We don't need any of that, and here's a little bit of new growth right there. We can cut this off here and here as well. And then we'll see what all develops there next year. Now then, this big one, we have 3 again here, but we don't know what's going to be the front of this tree. Probably something over here. So we're going to go ahead and get rid of an inside branch, an inside branch, and an inside branch. We'll just get rid of those. We know we're not going to need those. And there's a lot fighting for attention over here. We have 2 flat out this way, 1 back to the big thick branch over there. We just know we're not going to need any of this length. Don't need that big section there. So this one splits into two down here. And again, if this is eventually our front, let's get rid of this big old thick chunk here. Let's get rid of this big old thick chunk back here. There we go. Now we just got rid of over 50+% of the tree, 60+% of the tree. The question is if we keep this big one or we leave some of these lower, thinner branches. We do have 4 in one area though. We have 1 up here, 1 back here. So 2, 3, and 4. I'm going to cut the big one out. Alright, cut that big one out. And I think I'm tempted to get taper to cut that big one out as well. So now we have these 2 left for growing, and we will pick out where this goes in the future. We left some for dieback. I can put a little cut paste on some of these if I need to, just to be safe here for the rest of this season. So there we have what was a big old bush cut down to a twin trunk tree with a couple of early bifurcations happening right there. After putting on some cut paste on the bigger cuts, we have a tree that was really the top of a long Japanese maple. It just didn't have too much to offer as far as just the design. Now we have a twin trunk in the works. We have some nice movement on this branch right here, and that'll all get thicker and heal over time. We have some what looks like, well, this looks like it's dieback right here. We're just going to see what happens with new growth next year. We'll let it completely go out and push on its own. Again, we've got a good solid 4 to 8 weeks where the roots are still going to slowly push out some growth here in the fall. We'll fertilize this and get this root system that's pretty delicate right now a little bit of a stronghold before it goes into either the PSGF or my cold frame in the garage or the cabin one. So there we have the air layer number 1 cut and repotted. Now for air layer number 2, I just don't think it took. I will take off the wires carefully, and if there's nothing there, this is a thin enough branch up here that we might just be able to put this as a cutting, and as long as it's going to be protected in my cold frame, after a couple of months of we're already going to be in the 80s and 90s again here as we hit September. The 1st of September, 80s and 90s. So the warmth isn't over yet. Good time of year to do cuttings, not really. But once they're in the cold frame and protected, perhaps we'll get some growth on this skinny branch up here. Let's go ahead and open this up and just see what we possibly got. And as I suspected, that one just didn't take. We got a lot of calcine in here, but it didn't take. You know, that could be a cutting. And then the big one here. All live tissue. The sphagnum moss kept this alive for the last several weeks. We've got a fun little possible tree there. If we want to possibly see if it'll root. And so we're left with our original tree now with a really nice nabari. And you'll notice when I air layered this guy, I got all this new growth here. So this is that really nice lesson of when you trunk chop, which we basically did by taking all of the bark away from here for the air layer, you're going to get all kinds of backbiting on your trees. So we're going to go ahead and cut this in here right where it splits into 2. I kind of skimped and didn't put it in there far enough. So here we go. There it goes. Got to use that ratchet pruner the right way. So now here's our future tree. We have a really nice thick trunk here so far with a really nice wide nabari down here. Look at that nabari. So we can go ahead, and Andrew Robeson said that we could probably cut it right here. We'll do that next year if we decide to do it. I'm going to take the red ribbon off. We've got some branching over here on already. And let's go ahead. Let's go back and cut it even one more. There we go. We'll get some cut paste on here. So for the rest of this growing season, this also will be protected. And there we have a potential really fun tree down the road. Now again, Andrew says we can cut it right here, get some new leaves way down here, and we have a Shohin sized tree. I could still do that, but let's see what happens with our new branches, see if we get some that we like in good spots, and possibly have a nice maple tree for the future. So we'll go ahead and put this back on the bench. This has not been repotted or anything like that. No roots disturbed. We just cut off the top. We can put it where it was in mostly sun. The other one I put on my bench in a good chunk of shade and only a little bit of partial sun, just because we just got those sensitive roots into a new pot today. Let's put this on the bench, and then we'll talk about air layer part 2. Well, here we have air layer update, or air layer part 2 of today's show, and it is the hibiscus tree from Genie. Now, just like the Japanese maple, when I air layered this now only about 6 weeks ago, this was later than the Japanese maple, this bottom tree section, after we cut off the bark here, so we cut off all the moisture going up and down from the roots section here, the roots now are supporting up to here and into a dead zone, and then the rest are supporting this, and so this has just taken off with growth, and we already have the, the makings of a tree. We've got these really nice back buds right down here, super nice. Back bud right here, so we can cut all this off, and this could be our future tree. But I'm not going to do anything with this tree right now because it is ready to push out a massive amount of celebratory bloomage. Right here, 1 bud, 2 bud, 3 bud, 4 bud, 5, and 6, and this is number 7, which was the first to open up. 7 buds right on the lower section alone. Now you can see way up here, because I have my wide angle lens, here's the other one that's coming open, and there's another bud right there, and right here, and right here, and there. There are over 15, I think between 15 and 20 buds on the entire tree. So this thing is pushing out a lot of energy towards these flowers, which might not be advantageous for the root growth here, so I have to think about if I want all those to bud. But I'm going to let a couple of these bud and open up, and I'm going to save these and dry these out. And Tom, we're going to make some more hibiscus tea. Yeah, so I'm excited about that. So this one just opened up in full glory today, and this one just is starting to open. That should be open tomorrow with another gorgeous sunny day we have planned for tomorrow. So the update is really just to show you the flowers. Super pretty to look at. And update-wise here, let's get a close-up of our roots. Now, I said close-up of our roots, but we really don't see any roots so far. If I take my glasses off and inspect this a little bit closer, unlike those big white roots we saw on the other tree, I'm not seeing it here. I'm seeing some long, scraggly things, but that's like grass from the sphagnum moss, or the longer weeds that were more almost like raffia that was inside the sphagnum moss. We have a lot of green color sphagnum moss, so there's plenty of moisture in there. It's been holding its moisture pretty good. I just have no idea if we have any roots in here or if it's just still all sphagnum moss. There's a couple of squigglies right here that I'm not entirely sure. So we are not going to cut into this one quite yet. We're going to give this the rest of this growing season, the rest of August, a couple of days left, all of September, and then we'll probably bring it in the house in October, somewhere in October, and we'll let this go into the plant room and reacclimate itself, see what's going to happen. We'll cut off all these buds before we go inside, whatever's left, and let this thing continue to push out, hopefully some growth. We'll put a lot of light around this guy, and we'll keep it a little bit warmer in this part of the basement plant room if I can. And so this tropical plant will continue to do its thing with the roots that we have going on. Now, it won't have the summer sun, so this won't be as wet for as long, so I may have to water this once in a while through the If I can take the Saranni wrap stuff off here and get some moisture in there, I might have to do that from time to time in the basement plant room, because it's not going to have that greenhouse effect with the sun that we have right now. So that'll last for a couple more weeks, well into September. But then in October, we're going to have to try to think of something different. Or maybe open this up and take a quick little peek in there to see if there are roots growing in October when we bring it in the house. But there is the close-up of the roots. We just can't see any yet, so we have to leave this in place. And just a nice update with some beautiful flowers. It's one of those things in life that I find it hard to begin with the right words, other than to say it has saddened me, it has saddened the entire bonsai community, and it has saddened a lot of people who knew and were aware of any part of Tony. Tony wrote me an email when he was battling with his cancer originally, and he said that he was inspired by my YouTube channel, and that was something that really hit me and made me feel so proud that something I did made someone else feel better at a certain time in their life. And then he got better, and then things took a dive, and we lost a very, very special person in the bonsai world. This YouTube family, I've talked about it from time to time, is such an amazing family of support, passion, compassion for those of us that do either a YouTube channel or just do bonsai. And if you've had the chance to meet Tony, if you've had the chance to meet other YouTubers out there, you just feel that sense of family and connection and compassion. And he was just a lot of fun. And he experimented like a few others experiment, even myself. And I think some of my fondest memories of Tony and some of his bonsais, the first thing that comes to mind usually is a close-up of his hands trying to crank some branch down, some trunk here and then a trunk there and then back this way, and you know, and the shaking that he's like, is he gonna just snap this thing right off? And a few times I think he did, right? And his bending of trunks and trying to get that gnarly look and some movement. We want movement to our trees. I will never forget a couple of his videos when he would be ready to start work and he would say, "Let's get cracking," and that just kind of tore me up. I just laughed at that and had a blast with that. And what's with this vet tape? I've never really understood the vet tape. Is that veterinarian tape that's just flexible, and like we would put a ace bandage on ours? Is it vet for dogs and animals? And it just, I have never researched that or asked anybody, but vet tape, hearing him say vet tape, if I'm even saying that right. Tony's going to be missed, and I think the entire community that have already said some wonderful things about Tony and well wishes to his family and friends and the bonsai community. Again, you can't say enough about the bonsai community in my mind. If people don't know, I'm sure most of you do who watch this, Tony was a really good photographer, and he loved just going out on walks and just being with nature and taking some photographs. So I thought this would be a great time to really honor him. I don't have a lot of his bonsai art, but I have some of his photography that I'd like to show you now. A little bit of Tony's image through his lenses of his camera over the years. Tony did what a lot of us do in this craft. Either you have one and done, or you dive in the deep end, or maybe the shallow end, and hope you get your head up out of water soon and don't hurt yourself. Because we have trees upon trees upon trees in the ground, in many pots, nursery pots, bonsai pots, big, small, medium, trees that aren't typically bonsai. He just dove into this so big, and it's what kept him going for as long as it kept him going. I do believe the therapy that digging into a tree and being one with a bonsai is pretty powerful. And yeah, we're just gonna say goodbye. So I have to do that now. Tony, you're in our hearts forever. The videos we can cherish. And thank you for all you have done for this hobby, this craft, this art form. You won't be forgotten, for sure. I got to work on a couple of trees today that we did air layers on. We took a life and we made new life from it. Tony's life will always live with all of us and keep us in this craft, and keep the passion and compassion and energy, enthusiasm for bonsai and for good people. Thanks again, everybody. Take care of you. Take care of your bonsai. You know, and we'll see you on the next one. Rest in peace, Tony.